Hi folks, so this video is aiming to provide a bit of an introduction to the cybersecurity body of knowledge, which is commonly referred to as CyBOK. So within this video, we'll first look at what's meant by a body of knowledge, then we'll look specifically at CyBOK, which is this body of knowledge that's used within cybersecurity, and it's the main resource that we're going to be using throughout the cybersecurity landscapes module, as well as elsewhere in the course. A lot of the material in the vast majority of the material in the other modules is all tied to topics within CyBOK, so you might hear about this elsewhere later in your journey. After that, we're going to look at how the knowledge areas within CyBOK are organised into separate knowledge areas, how the knowledge within CyBOK is organised into separate knowledge areas, and we'll have a little look at how to get the most out of the use of this resource by looking at both. Well, there are written chapters which cover the topics within an area in a lot of detail, and there are also, but some of those are quite long and dense. There's a lot of information there. Some of the other ways of representing it that the people on the project have provided are these things, knowledge trees, which are basically like high-level tree structure. We'll get to it, but it's a high-level tree structure with like little core bits of information all organised hierarchically, so that you can see what is within each of these knowledge areas at a glance. So, a body of knowledge is a repository, basically, which it aims to encompass all of the knowledge that's found within different fields of study or professional domains, and tries to structure it in a way that you have separate knowledge areas or like modules, pieces of like topics that are all related to each other. It tries to structure all of this knowledge in a way that is useful for people in anyone that's like looking it up as a reference, really. But the main purpose for it is to provide a uniform foundation for people in education and educational providers, educational institutions like universities or training providers. And the main reason is so that everyone's on the same page, really, about what it is that needs to be taught in a discipline, what are the main bits of knowledge that are relevant. And yeah, there are a bunch of the examples of these. There are a few on the screen now, but there are tons of different examples in different disciplines. There's a few here. One's CyBOK, which is software engineering body of knowledge, then BA-BOK for business analysis, and then now the one that we're interested in, CyBOK, which is the cybersecurity body of knowledge. Okay, so the CyBOK project was launched in 2017, and it was a collaborative international effort with between over 115 leading experts, which set out to systematically organise the breadth of knowledge that's held within the cybersecurity domain. So it's a pretty lofty project goal, and it involved a lot of people, so it's quite a complicated thing to manage. It involves experts from across a bunch of different sectors, like the private sector, public sector. You had educators, like universities, researchers from all over the place. You had like law enforcement and like government agencies that are like primarily in defence, which like GCHQ, for example, and the NCSC were a big driving force in the project to begin with. So you had like 115 experts all across various different occasions that all got together, and they had to try and gather or collect as much information and knowledge that they had, and try then to categorize it all into meaningful, high-level knowledge areas. And they had to come into agreement of like how best to do this in a way that represents the landscape of cybersecurity. So at first there were 19 knowledge areas that got proposed initially, and smaller groups of these researchers and the experts involved were tasked with writing a chapter which provides a review of the current state of the art in each of these knowledge areas. So there are things like malware and attack technologies. There are things like law and regulation, governance law and regulation. There's a risk management one. There are loads of these. We'll be looking at some of them in detail, and you'll get assigned some sections out of some of them throughout the module as we're assigned reading. So keep an eye out for that. So like 2 years after the start of the project, the official first version was published, so in 2019. And this provided the first comprehensive body of knowledge within the discipline. Okay, so why do we need a body of knowledge anyway? So here's a couple of quotes from the National Cybersecurity Centre, which is the branch of GCHQ that, like government communications headquarters, which were the driving force behind the CyBOK project. So this will give us some idea of why they did this. So CyBOK, first quote, CyBOK has the aim of providing a foundation for the development of cybersecurity profession, of the cybersecurity profession. So yeah, as mentioned previously, CyBOK didn't exist properly until 2019 when it was first published. And before that, there was no like foundational shared document or resource which underpinned the knowledge, which contained the knowledge that would like underpin curriculum design for educators or training providers. So one of the problems with this is there was no standard set of content for people to design their syllabuses around, and you might have different institutions or people that are coming out of these different training plans with totally different sets of information, which can cause a massive it can cause loads of problems. If you think about like employers having to try and like guess which things different degree holders know, or like different people with different like training certifications or whatever, it's like there might be quite a wide variance between those, and that's obviously not good for anyone who's trying to recruit for a particular role, and it's not good for people who get educated either. You might only learn like some institutions might only provide like a much more high level theoretical look at some parts of the cybersecurity body of knowledge, like before it existed, right? They might like focus more heavily on certain topics like cryptography or some things, and then you might have others which are much more practical and hands-on, doing different things, but they might have gaps in the knowledge. So yeah, it's better to get everyone on the same page, and that's what CyBOK was for. So yeah, the second quote is, the NCSC will now be using CyBOK as the basis for describing the course content of the certified undergraduate and postgraduate cybersecurity degrees programs, as well as that for certified training. So yeah, employers, including those at GCHQ, gain increased confidence in degree qualifications if they've been accredited with, and the accreditation program that NCSC provides actually uses CyBOK to categorize and evaluate how well a course covers core knowledge within the cybersecurity discipline, knowledge and competencies actually. So our degrees are provisionally certified by the undergraduate cybersecurity degrees, like there's only 11 I think at the minute courses that has NCSC accreditation, and the master's degree is also accredited, and there are a few more of those. There are about like mid-20s amount of universities which have accredited master's cybersecurity degrees. There's a work ongoing within the university by Pip and Cliff, and probably more people will be involved in order to try and get the they're going through the process of applying for accreditation for this, forensics and security degrees, as well as just the plain cybersecurity ones. So that should be coming soon. But yeah, you're with the courses. The courses within a small select group that actually covers most of the things that we need to cover. Okay, so I mentioned before that CyBOK was split into a bunch of knowledge areas, and I think in the initial breakdown of all of the different knowledge areas, there were 19, but they ended up in version 1 having 21 of them, so they found a couple more. And there's a nice diagram on the right, which I'll just have to hide my camera so you can see it. So yeah, there's a nice diagram on the right which represents the knowledge areas and some of the overlap in different areas of security. So you've got, you can see that there's like sections of infrastructure security that overlap with system security, things like networks and hardware. And there are areas where software and platform security overlap with system security as well. So you got a bit of a Venn diagram there. And then there are these around the side. There are the human, organizational, and regulatory aspects. Things like risk management and governance. Each of these has its own chapter and knowledge tree, and you can find those. I'll upload the slides and include the link in the description, and you'll be able to click on these links. So the first one links you to the knowledge base, which gives you the option to either download all of the chapters in like one big document, or individual chapters where it's broken out, which will be easy to manage. And each of them has a hierarchical representation of the knowledge. So each of the components within these chapters are split up into a tree structure that will help you look through it at a glance. This will be useful for your assignment in week 1. And so some of the examples of these knowledge areas and where we cover them on the course are, you can see like malware and attack technologies. So this is covered a bunch in ethical hacking and penetration testing module. We have a reverse engineering module on the MEng level 7, which is reverse engineering and malware. We have adversarial behaviors next. So like, yeah, that's covered in ethical hacking and penetration testing. So you're actually acting as an adversary in that module in a lot of the, from the perspective of an adversary in a lot of the tasks in that module. Then we've got forensics covered everywhere. Yeah, we cover it a bit in IRI, but it's there are forensics modules throughout the course. Security operations and incident management. So that's IRI is it stands for incident response and investigation. It's also just known as incident response now. But yeah, that covers it, like incident management and operations. There's some of that covered in in the EHPT ethical hacking and penetration module as well. And then you've got, I don't know, some of these others. You've got like, yeah, systems, operating systems and virtualization. So that's covered in system security at level 6. It's also covered a bunch throughout the course. Authentication, authorization, accountability. That's also covered in system security. And then you've got software security, web and mobile security, secure software lifecycle. These are all covered in like web and networks, ethical, the EHPT, and in some more detail on the MEng as well. And then you've got network security covered in web and networks. So yeah, there's a bunch of things here, and yeah, you'll find these resources linked on the left useful throughout the semester. But yeah, especially so for this first task in week 1 for your reflection task. So thank you.